But you have to state that. You have to state what your preference is, what you're comfortable with, and what you're uncomfortable with. And the best time to do that is before you get together. Because if you have somebody who's going to push against your boundaries and say, well, that's silly, then that's not the right person for you.
Yeah.
Did you push record?
Thanks again for tuning into Second Act TV. We have Sandy Weiner with us for one more segment talking about dating after 50, finding love after 50, especially in these crazy times of COVID-19. Sandy, thanks so much for staying over.
Pleasure.
Well, we just finished 3 other segments that we'll be linking to with some really, I think, great information about adapting to this new online world of dating and getting from just putting yourself out there, making the decision to keep on dating, when we really can't get together and how to virtual date, etc. And Sandy, you brought up a great point, and that is a lot of the questions that you get as a dating coach, a dating expert. Sandy, of course, helps people over 40, 50, 60 find love, date, and how do you make that connection if you don't meet in person? And you said, well, there's a lot of questions about that, about how do we get together in person? How do we approach that?
Yeah, so it's a complicated world. And I think that we have to prepare for an in-person meeting at some point. And again, it depends on where you live. I have clients who live in some of the worst states right now, and they've been hiding in their apartments and houses. But if you are practicing caution, if you're cautious and you find out, like, what have they been doing? Have they been isolating? And some people will tell you right away, like, I have not left my house. I have, ordered all my food in. You really want to hear. Or there are people who just say, masks are silly. Like, I got a text from one of my clients, and she sent me a Bumble profile, which was all about, like, she lives in Texas. I mean, it was like, masks are stupid, they're for sissies. And it's like, okay, thank you, I don't want to date you. So you'll find out pretty quickly, like, is this a person who I want to date? And you do want to see each other, because the virtual, it runs its course, and then there has to be an in-person to see the energy exchange between two people. So I would suggest you meet somebody in public, outside, someplace where you can social distance, and wear a mask if you're out in public. But if you feel comfortable with that person, you eventually will take the mask off, and maybe take it off for brief times when you're talking, if you're sitting far enough apart. And plan outdoor dates, like picnics and things like that. I mean, people have, if they're not comfortable sharing food, then each person brings their own food. There are ways to get around this so that you find your comfort level. I think that's what's really important.
And that's all perfectly acceptable, right, Sandy? I mean, you shouldn't be or feel intimidated if you really want to wear a mask to express that. To go, here, I'm going to be wearing a mask. I'd love to meet with you, and I would expect you to do the same, right?
Yeah, I went on one virtual date, and we did not wear masks. We went on a walk, and we stayed far enough apart, and then we sat down at a table far enough apart. And at the end, he walked me to my car, and I just was very clear with him: no hugging, no nothing. Really nice to meet you. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And, but you have to state that. You have to state what your preference is, what you're comfortable with, and what you're uncomfortable with. And the best time to do that is before you get together. Because if you have somebody who's going to push against your boundaries and say, well, that's silly, then that's not the right person for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think everybody finds their comfort zone. There are people who are sleeping together. There are people who are kissing. Again, that's a risk. And, you could have COVID testing. Doesn't 100% guarantee anything. My ex-husband is a very nervous person, and he doesn't go around his own kids without a mask. So, and he wipes down every surface 20,000 times a day. So we all have different levels of comfort. Find yours, find somebody who respects yours, find somebody who's doing what you're doing and is on a similar page. And then, I think eventually you build enough trust and you can isolate together. I mean, there are people who are moving in together during COVID who either are deepening their relationship or ruining their relationship, but you're finding out real fast. But sometimes that's the best answer. If you've started seeing somebody before COVID and you want to be together, that might be the best way to protect both of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as we sit here today, everything was starting to open. I'm in California, and yesterday, the governor announced that everything's shutting down again. So we don't know, how long this is going to continue. It's a serious, well, obviously, very serious thing, and the loneliness and the lack of touch and everything that comes with it, is something that'll be a lot more segments that we'll have to address. Paige and I did one, but that's certainly going to be more and more of an issue. Touch deprivation, and how do you move when you first meet someone from point A to point B on that?
Yeah, and people are craving touch. I mean, it is really, really hard. The isolation has been hard for people. I just started seeing friends again, friends who I respect. It's the same kind of thing, that I respect the way they've been isolating, and so we both feel comfortable enough. One of them, we met outside on my deck, and I ordered sushi in, and we just ate outside. Mm-hmm. Other people were going into each other's homes and using bathrooms, which I wouldn't do with other people. So my son is having some people over for a bonfire Saturday night, and he gave them very strict guidelines. You are not to come inside. If you smoke, you're not allowed to pass it around. No drinking in my backyard. It's like we have to be clear what our rules are and find the people who will respect them.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's whoever thought that we would be talking, about these kinds of topics. Sandy, is there any other advice you have on getting together? It's funny, that's a whole other segment too, but the whole intimacy in COVID, the state of New York is funny. The health department put out a sex and COVID-19 some recommendations. It's hysterical. I'll have to link to it about. Yeah. But it is what we have to think about now is it worth, is that kind of contact worth it or not?
Yeah, I mean, we used to have to worry about STD testing and whether you're exclusive or not. And then now it's like, how many people are you touching? Are you exposing yourself to COVID on top of STDs and everything else? So, I think, again, we're slowing down. We're slowing everything down. And I think that's a good thing. It's time for introspection and really knowing what it is that really matters in life, because we were speeding through life. Mm-hmm. Before.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it is good that pressure to become intimate is essentially off the table, I think, for most people. Anyway, it's something that everybody has a different opinion on. It's become politicized, the whole thing. So it's a shame and a benefit, both. So I'm going to keep looking on the positive side to see how all this really helps the connections that we establish and how we move forward. So always appreciate your advice, and we'll link to all of your information to your course. I think you are going to be dealing with this topic more in detail, right? Getting together in person. Hopefully, when we talk next time, a few months down the road, things will be looking up from where we sit today. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time on Second Act TV. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right over here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too. We'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.